What's up, everyone? Can I just say can we just schedule Memphis for every match this season? Somehow, some way, Orange County is comfortable playing against Memphis. They win on the road and at home against Memphis. So let's just put them on the schedule for the whole season. That'd be a cool way to do things, right? Let's get into this. Let's get this thing started. Welcome to the Show of Champions. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast. How's it going, Orange County? Welcome to the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, the first and only show dedicated to Orange County Soccer Club, its fans, and supporters. I'm your host, Ray Samora. I'm going to take you through this journey as we discuss all things Orange County Soccer Club. We've got a nice panel helping us out. First, let's go to Dylan, the original co-host, the original Robin to my Batman, I guess is the way we'll say it. How you doing, Dylan?
I always thought of myself more as a butler, but
I would say maybe you're more the Batman. You have the deeper voice, so that would make more sense. But
start wearing a mask.
Yeah, you should start wearing a mask. That would be fun.
I'm happy about 3 points. I'll say that.
And even though it was only 3 points in two matches, it was a great 3 points. Let's just go there. We'll talk more about it. We got the bearded one himself, Mr. Larry. Larry, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Just super excited about that performance Saturday night. Looking to see, very curious to see if they can repeat it in Tampa.
Yeah, definitely. And the last person helping us out on this, I saw him rocking out to the countdown music in the background. That's Mr. Matt Elder. Matt, welcome. Loving the hat.
Howdy, gents. Doing well. What's going on with you guys? Haven't seen a few of you in a while, so happy to see you.
We're ready to have some fun on this. I mean, it's interesting. We did lose midweek, but it doesn't feel like it because we had a great weekend match. Did I have a foul? What was my foul? I want to know now. If someone could tell me. Thank you, Edison. Let's do this. Let's get into things because it seems like it's already that kind of show. Midweek, New Mexico, not the prettiest of matches. Dylan, thoughts?
Did anybody expect us to get a result from this match? I don't think we've ever particularly done well there. I can think of maybe one result back in 2019. I guess the Milanowski conducting the curse or whatever they're called. But I expect this to be 4 or 5-0, to be honest with you. So 2-0, keeping the goal difference somewhat respectable isn't a huge loss in my eyes.
So, I mean, in Dylan's eyes, this is more like a semi-victory, midweek loss to New Mexico.
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm just saying, look at how we've been this season. This was unlikely to go well for us.
All right. Okay. How about you, Larry? What were your thoughts on this New Mexico midweek match?
About 15 minutes before the game started, I got my score prediction in, and I predicted a 2-0 county loss. So I was correct, and I hate being correct in these particular cases, but we weren't performing well. New Mexico's been playing fantastic. They are the top team in the West for a reason. They showed why they're the top team in the West against us, a struggling club right now, who if you take, 4 of their bench players and you add all of their ages up together, I'm still older than them. It makes it tough when you get in situations like that. And I got to say, you guys remember when Avion Flanagan played for us for that brief time back in 2020, 2021, whenever it was? He absolutely abused that side of the field all night against us. And I was just kind of thinking and wishing, boy, it'd be fun to have him back on the team just for a few minutes. He was a cool dude, and he had a great game. And, yeah, New Mexico just took it to us right from beginning to end. So 2-0, we're going to call that a moral victory on our parts.
All right. So got Dylan and Larry both, I guess, semi-okay with the result. They pretty much anticipated that's what was going to happen. Dylan, I think, thought it was going to be even worse, so he was a little bit happier with the result. What about you, Matt? Is that what you were anticipating midweek in New Mexico, in Albuquerque, or were you hoping for a little bit more of an effort from the Orange County boys?
No, I mean, there's no way we were going to win that game. I wouldn't go as far as what Dylan said, just because they don't score 4 or 5 goals. They win 1-0, maybe 2, pretty much every game. So I was expecting that, basically, at their house on a field that I can't believe is allowed. You know, it is what it is. Like, I thought maybe we would have, if anything, the game we had against or this past weekend, like maybe against New Mexico, like, oh, this is like similar to the Indy game where like we just decided to show up in a crazy way and upset a team that hasn't lost. Maybe they were due for one, but like if I was a betting man, there's no way I'm betting on that to happen. Definitely gonna go with the probable 1-0 to New Mexico, but you know, we almost nicked it in there. I mean, there was a point in the game where it was like, hey, if we just get one of those like early season corners or a little bit of luck, and could have been a different game. But I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if they could have found a way to steal a point, that would have been sweet victory for Orange County with a result like that. Obviously, with the amount of injuries the team is facing, a midweek match played at home last week. You have a midweek in the road, and then you're back at home. So it's almost like 3 road games in a row because you're not really getting good rest in your own bed. You're, all over the place and getting limited training. So obviously, I think we all thought and we all sort of knew that this New Mexico match was tough. I think, very hopeful last week that somehow, some way, Orange County would be able to figure something out and at least get a result. But obviously, again, with the amount of injuries this team has been dealing with, the lack of rest between matches, this is almost like one of those games you look at like on baseball where you're playing pretty much 6 days a week. This is one that you're just like phoning in right away. You don't want to do too much to add more injuries, wear your players out. This is pretty much a schedule loss. Let's look forward to the next match and hopefully we can come victorious with that. Not saying that's what the team did here, but it wouldn't surprise me and I wouldn't be upset if that was sort of the game plan going into Mexico of look good, but don't put too much energy and don't try too hard in that because the more winnable game is at home against Memphis. Anyone upset with me with that mindset, or do you think that's not the right mindset in this moment, Dylan?
I don't disagree with it. I think it's a smart place to be. We were on 21 points at that point. I think we're still 10 behind, and they have 2 matches in hand on us. I think it's just do what you can, and instead of worrying about these matches, let's focus on the matches that we can get a result from. So let's focus on when we play the Phoenixes and the San Antonios and the Tulsas, the teams that are in and around where we are, where we can expect to get a result on the road or at home. Those should be the bigger focus. Obviously, if we ask anybody from the team, they're going to say, no, every match is winnable. And, we thought we could get 3 points if we execute our game plan properly. And yeah, that's probably true to a point, but realistically, it's not the end of the world.
I think that's maybe subconsciously, but that's never like professional players almost never have that mentality going into a game. I will say, like maybe subconsciously there's something there as far as, we don't we're not going to put in that 110% effort into a game like this where you kind of know you're going to lose, you're dealing with the injuries and all that, etc. But I mean, going into a game, you're never going to be like, hey, guys, don't try this game or like, don't worry about it. It's never going to happen in professional sports. But like subconsciously, probably there was a hint of like, hey, just don't get battered. Like, we're just going to shore it up and just hope we don't get murdered here.
Yeah, this to go with that, like this felt like a match where we said, hey, we're back at home on Saturday and we can probably get a result against Memphis. And I think even beforehand, you just start to look at what's happening afterwards.
Can you just imagine the gaffer, right before the game starts? Hey, like producer Andy just put up there. Hey guys, listen. First of all, don't get hurt, and let's give a solid 65% tonight.
Well, here's the way you look at it, right? Is the following match is a home match against a team that you've already beaten on the road, so they're beatable. Your roster can beat them because you've done it already. Although Memphis came into this match, I think, playing pretty well. But Orange County comes home after the midweek loss, puts, I don't know. I think we've already called out a previous match as their best performance, but this looked like their best performance this past weekend against the Memphis team. They were, although the possession numbers weren't in Orange County's favor, they dominated when it mattered, which is getting the ball into the back of the net. And the cool thing is it was a team effort. It wasn't one player doing all the work. And not to, pat myself on the back, but I think last week I talked about Ethan Zubak doing things, but players not being there to receive the ball when he's heading it into a space he's anticipating a player. When the ball's lofted up, he's heading it or controlling it and trying to get it to a teammate. And there were a few times in this match where we actually saw that it worked and the team looked better. Dylan, thoughts on this match? Possibly best match of the season for OC so far?
Maybe our most dominant, where even 1-0 up, it didn't feel like Memphis really had a quick response for that, versus if I look back at Colorado and Bryce Jamison's brace, I was just thinking, I don't think this is over yet. But this one never really felt like Memphis was going to get back into it. We played to our strengths and potentially Memphis's weaknesses. That was really good to see. It was really good to see us rely so heavily on the youth and score more than one goal in a match, more than 2 goals for a match. And I think having 4 different goal scorers, it harkens back to the beginning of the season where we had like 4 different players with 1 goal each. Milanowski is a very good player at this level. To lose a player of that caliber, we're not going to pull kind of a fringe MLS player and watch them light the league on fire. It's going to be a group of 4 or 5 players stepping up to try and create that same production. That's what we're getting now. It just felt good. And massive credit to Ben Norris for getting out there and just looking like, oh, hey, thanks for letting me get this first professional start. I'm going to reward you guys by just absolutely working as hard as I can here. And Bryce Jamison continues to be, I think, as he described, an unpredictable player. And just, when you're a fullback and you're trying to defend someone that is unpredictable, you have no idea what's going to come, and he's probably faster than you, so you just know that you're going to get beat at some point.
Larry, I have to assume, or I guess it's just a positive aspect, the 2 outside defenders starting the match. I mean, that's a big chunk of a big part of Orange County's successes when you have Ryan Dogman and Owen Lambe both starting and playing, decently well in their positions. How important is having some of these players that we've been missing back in the lineup, and how good was the shake up in the lineup and bringing in a youngster like Ben Norris into the lineup, in your opinion?
I'm going to talk about Ben. He is really quickly, in the limited times that he has gotten on the pitch the last 2 seasons, he is becoming one of my all-time favorites at Orange County Soccer Club. If you guys remember from last year, I gave him an A+ for his season grade because he took Kevin Lambert's ass right out, and I loved every second of that. And I thought Ben played a great game. He was consistent. He did what he needed to do, and then just a little bit more. And I think he showed everybody, hey, you know what? I might only be 13 years old, 13, 19, 18, whatever he happens to be. I think I have T-shirts older than him. He showed that he belongs, and he can put in some shifts and help this team moving forward. Now, if we have all of our players, all of our normal first-team players healthy, is Ben getting on the pitch? Probably not. But he did what he needed to do Saturday night by showing that, hey, look, you can call on me. I'm ready. When it's my time, I'm ready. Let's go. And I thought he did fantastic. Now, having Ryan and Owen out there on the wings, man, that is a huge, huge thing for this team, because those are two of the biggest catalysts we have on this team. I mean, you've got Owen's banger right here, which is absolutely fantastic. And Ryan down that left-hand side, he's scary. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He takes it to people. And he did that last night, and it was great to see him. I think he played 62, 63 minutes. I could be wrong. But he looked good, and he's getting his legs back. He's going to be back in there for 90 minutes. Coming up here real soon, and that's going to be that's going to be huge in turning this team around, I think.
Matt, what about your thoughts on this match? How big of this victory, or how important was this victory for Orange County's morale and sort of getting prepared for this next part of the schedule?
It's huge. It's one of those things where had this game not gone that way, or if we gone the opposite direction, we're looking at like a pretty bad slump that's starting to take shape. And this was a great way to kind of turn it around. I think, there's been some negativity among, fans and whoever, where it's like, what's going on with this team? Or are we going to win another game? Or like how the slide was happening. And to have a result like this, especially after a game like New Mexico, where it kind of looked a little hopeless at times, it's great to kind of get that confidence back, bounce back, and show the league and even our own team, honestly, more importantly, that like we can perform, we can get a result, and we're still in there for a shot. I mean, the West is so incredibly tight. Like, as long as we can get a couple results like this to finish out the season, like we still got half of it left, we'll be fine. Especially considering all the injuries and all that.
Yeah, and a big benefit again about this league, and we've talked about this in seasons past, is just get into the playoffs, and it's a whole new season once you make it into the playoffs. If you get on a nice little run at the end of the season, heading into the playoffs, who knows what can happen? And we all know, yes, they haven't had the best season so far, but this is a dangerous roster. If they're fully healthy, this is a really good roster. I would assume if we sneak in the 8th or 7th seed in the West, most of those top seeds are looking, if Orange County's healthy, we don't want to play them in that opening round of the playoffs because of how dangerous they can be. Is that a stupid comment by me, Dylan?
No. We've won the West before, and no one took it seriously. Sorry, everybody outside of Orange County didn't take it seriously because, it's about the cup at the end of the year. We've also won the cup, and we got a star for it, and that was pretty awesome. But, it's American sports, and it's about the playoffs. So it's about us just getting there, and then you win 4, and you get a second star.
So here's a good thing about this. This is a nice victory, though, to ramp up the confidence for Orange County. They're going to be heading on the road in their next match against a opponent that's always a tough opponent on the road in Tampa Bay. Now, really quick, because we did pre-record something. We talked to James from RBLR. I have to try and figure out the order of the teams. If you don't know, it's RBLR Sports, I believe is what it's called. We'll confirm it once we get it. So we have a video we're going to play on here. But before we do that, I want to just get all your thoughts heading into this Tampa Bay match. We'll actually get more detailed from all of us about Tampa Bay. What are your thoughts, really quick, about heading into this Tampa Bay match next week, Larry?
It's going to be interesting. One of the nice things about this past Saturday is there was a lot of ball movement, a lot of good creativity going on out there. I'd like to see us build on that. Keep that ball moving around the pitch. With Tampa Bay, you never know. We went in there in the championship game, beat them in their house 3-1. Next year we go back and we lose. I think we lost 2-0 in 22 when we went back to Tampa Bay. So you just never know what's going to happen. Tampa Bay is always going to be a good team. It's a given. They're going to be top 4 in the East. It's automatic. So, the team's got to go in there with a good game plan and execute it. Come out of there with a draw, get a point, come back home.
Matt, your quick thoughts on this upcoming match, the win heading into this match.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. It just depends on which of our team shows up. Is it going to be the team that beat Memphis 4-1? It could be that. It could be the team that lost 2-0 to New Mexico. So, and it depends on the Tampa Bay team. I mean, like looking at their past results, they've been pretty inconsistent themselves. They've lost to a couple of the same teams we have. So it could go either way, and just kind of depends. We just got to get there and get a result. It's gonna be a tough.
We'll hear from Dylan, but let's play the interview that we did really quick so we have time to get to Owen, and then we'll get Dylan's thoughts after we speak to our guests. Match coming up this weekend on the road in Tampa Bay against the Rowdies, and to help us out with that, we've got James from RBLR Sports. They cover all the sports there in Tampa. Rays, Buccaneers, Lightning, and of course, Rowdies is who we're talking about here. James, thank you for taking some time to join us on this episode.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to discuss it with you guys because, as I'm sure we hear on the other way, or maybe it's just something that you guys experience, but it's difficult to watch the West Coast games, and I imagine it's probably difficult for you guys to watch the East Coast games. So I don't have all of the knowledge about the West Coast teams, and that's why I love talking to you guys when we have those games.
Dylan, I'm going to give you first shot at a question for James.
James, another Scottish manager. Maybe for those of us in Orange County who haven't been paying attention, Neil Collins left a while ago. He went to Barnsley. It didn't go as well for him. You've got Robbie Nielsen now. Is it same old 3-4-3? Is this the Tampa Bay that we can expect to just be difficult and always mount a comeback? If we're up at 70 minutes, what's changed in the last 2 years?
Yeah, that's a good question because obviously there is the cultural background, but I think that for whatever reason, we have had two managers who do like to play relatively similar styles. It's not obviously exactly the same because we don't have the exact same players. So that would be a big difference here. But we do usually play with three at the back and then a very big emphasis on wing backs as well. So yeah, the wing backs are going to be very important for us, just as I'm sure it was under Neil Collins previously. Lewis Hilton is going to be taking up the same role that he was before. He was another big piece under Neil Collins. He remains that under Robbie Nielsen now. So you will see him be very important. And then the other big piece that was not there previously, who has really stepped up this year, has been Danny Crisostomo, somebody that you guys might be familiar with because he was mostly on the West Coast for his USL career. Yes, exactly. And yeah, he is kind of an all-action player at this point where he is going to try to get himself involved in helping us build up the wings with those wingbacks that I mentioned earlier. So on the right side, it has been Pacific Nyongabire, comes to us from the Canadian Premier League. And on the left side, it has been Blake Bodley. He just had an injury recently. So he's actually been replaced for, I think, the last game or two with Eddie Manjoma, another mostly West Coast player. And yeah, so that is the team that we have been building up to mostly over those two wingback positions and then trying to create number overloads, let's say, with those players. And then if they can get the ball back into the box with Manuel Arteaga sitting there, he has been deadly for us up top. And Cal Jennings has been the other guy who's been really involved in the build-up for most of our chance creation.
Cal Jennings was a very hot commodity coming off of that 2022 season, I think. It sounds like from what you've said, he's not leading the line. Are we expecting him to drop in and let the other two kind of run past him? What is his role and how is he slotted in for the Rowdies?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say he is still leading the line, so to speak. It's just a bit of a difference in terms of where he scores his goals as opposed to where Manuel Arteaga scores his goals. So those are going to be our two most dangerous players for sure up top. And Cal does like to drop in a little bit deeper so that he can build up a head of steam, kind of running at players. And that is where you will most likely see him dropping in to assist with the build-up along with the wingback. So he would mostly start out on the right side. The last couple of games, it was Josh Perez who was starting out on the left side in a similar role. They have been the guys who add to the numbers to try and create those number overloads that I was referring to. So yeah, like I said, on the right, it'll probably be Crisostomo along with Nyongabire and Cal Jennings. And then Cal Jennings, if we need this positional play, then it would be him receiving the ball, like I said, a little bit deeper. He can turn and he can just run at people because that's something that he's good enough at, that he can create chances just by doing it. On the other side, it'll be Josh Perez and I guess probably Eddie Manjoma this weekend. If not, it'll be Blake Bodley, depending on where he is in his injury comeback. And then they will try to build up those numbers where they can get it up to up the wing and then cross the ball back in where they can try to find Manuel Arteaga. So it is leading the line for both Arteaga and Jennings, but it is definitely a slightly different role for each of them. Arteaga does appear to be the guy who's going to be sitting in the box a lot more frequently. He's going to be the guy who's going to try to get on the end of crosses a lot more frequently. And Cal Jennings is someone who's going to do it all on his own if he can. Josh Perez has been the guy who will do it all on his own on the left side, but he's just a less frequent starter, I guess, probably down to the fact that he doesn't have as many goals as Cal Jennings. But to try and reach the same tally that Jennings and Arteaga has is a very tall task. So that's why they stay on the field as much as they do.
I think the last time Orange County was a competitive team and played Tampa was, in a final.
Yeah.
And Forrest Lasso was there. It seems like Tampa's done a good job of retooling and rebuilding and getting a little bit younger. To me, that typically says, hey, if you play a direct game, it's not as much of an issue because pace isn't usually as much of an issue with younger players. What is what's Orange County's key to scoring a couple on Tampa? What is Tampa's biggest weakness?
Well, I would lean towards a couple of different items, I suppose. So there are a couple of things that I would say are potential issues. So one thing is quick direct play can be a problem. It's not always the biggest problem because, as you said, there have been moves to try and get a little bit younger and therefore a little bit quicker on the back line. If the Rowdies will identify that as a large potential problem, then they will try to cover for that with a little bit more speed that they can add to the back line. So usually we can prevent that if needed. But at the same time, it has been a little bit of a problem here and there. Where I would really say the Rowdies have had a lot of issues, especially lately, is off of set pieces. The other thing, any team could be caught in transition. So yeah, that quick direct play will catch us, but we have also had issues definitely with set pieces. And I don't remember exactly which game it was. I believe it was a 2-2 draw. So I would have to go back and look, but there was a 2-2 draw, if I'm not mistaken, in which both of the teams' goals were scored. I'm sorry, it was a 3-2 win for us against Louisville. It just came back to me. But the two goals that were scored against us were both off of set pieces. So there are definitely problems when it comes to that. I don't know if it's maybe the team gets a little lackadaisical and they lose their focus in between those moments where a team is lining up to actually take the free kick, the corner kick, what have you. But that has been a problem every so often. So like I said, there is a potential, though, if you have the speedy players and if you have the real quick people up top, they can still beat us and burn us that way. But I do think that another big standout would be set pieces.
Final question for you before we kind of flip things over to Ray. 4th place, 17 matches, 8 wins, 5 draws, 4 losses. Kind of a mixed bag from the outside looking in. What's the high moment and the low moment for Tampa this year?
Well, I would definitely say some of our high moments are beating New Mexico, because I know they're currently leading out in the West, beating Sacramento in Sacramento. That was a big one. And then that one that I just referred to actually was 3-2 win over Louisville. Those were the high moments for sure. Now, our lower moments are the exact opposite, where we go and we beat these big teams. Unfortunately, especially in the last month or so. Yeah, the last month has been pretty bad in this sense. We have had a lot of trouble beating the worst teams, the lesser teams, let's say. I shouldn't call them worst teams because any team can win on any given day, but definitely the teams that are below us in the table is where we have had the most trouble, especially away from home and on turf fields. So that doesn't bode well, I guess, in Orange County's case this week, but it has been a big issue. And those are the teams that like to sit back. They have a relatively easy time preventing us from scoring in quite a few of these games, and then they do come back and they beat us in transition. So yeah, it is that mixed bag, just as you said. It's us trying to figure out exactly why it's been so mixed down here.
Everyone that watches the show knows how much I loved Danny Crisostomo when he was with Orange County. He was definitely one of my favorites. I bought his game-worn jersey when they auctioned it off. I still have that. I just got to ask this. Are the Tampa Bay fans treating Danny with the respect that Danny deserves as a player that really gives their all for the team that they're playing for?
You know, I think that the Tampa Bay fans have really embraced him. If I'm being honest, when he was signed over the offseason, I don't know how many of us predicted that he would be this locked-in starter that he has become, but he has really taken the team by storm. Him and the other player that I would put in this category is Josh Perez. They were players that were not necessarily the most highly regarded as we were getting into the preseason and getting ready for the first game. And since then, both of them have really taken over the chance creation for the Tampa Bay Rowdies this season. So yeah, Danny Crisostomo, I really, what I want, because his name is so long, it's always hard to fit it onto a line when I'm doing on my notes for our own podcast. But I would like for us as a fan base to come up with some type of nickname that reflects the way that he plays. And I don't know that we have done that yet, but if you guys have any suggestions, then I would also like to take those, because we could get something going there for sure. He is so hardworking, just as you said, and I personally love to see it.
James, before we let you go, share with our listeners, if they want to hear more from you or from RBLR Sports, where should they look?
Yeah, well, as you said, RBLR Sports, we're at RBLR Sports on all the social media stuff. And also, as you said, we cover not just the Rowdies, but the Rays, the Bucks, the Lightning. And now we have a show for the Tampa Bay Sun, the new women's team in the USL Super League. So I know it's very specific to the center of Florida. And if that's not necessarily what you're interested in, I understand. But I'm sure that there's other stuff that we could interest you in with other sports. And like I said, our women's team, we're covering them too. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on at RBLR.
So that was our conversation with James from RBLR about the upcoming match against Tampa. Good thing is we have someone we're going to speak with here about this upcoming match. And he was actually getting to listen a little bit to what James was sharing. So maybe he wrote down some notes, took some pointers of what to find out. That's Mr. Owen Lambe, amazing goal scorer for Orange County this past weekend. Owen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I know we're glad to have you on, especially after a great performance from not just you, but the team as a whole. How important is that win at home against Memphis as you head on to the road against Tampa for your next match? How important is a win like that for you all?
Yeah, it's big. It's big for the belief in the group. You know, we had some tough spells before. So just to have like a performance like that and get 4 goals at home, it's massive.
And how much did the performance you all had ignited the fans that were at Championship Soccer Stadium? How does it feel as a player to hear these fans, super stoked about the way you all put on 4 goals over a really quality Memphis team?
Yeah, no, it makes a big impact for sure in the game. When we feel like we're in spells of momentum, I feel like having you guys cheering us on and having that energy from the fans, it can really push us forward to continue to want to score more goals and work hard on the defensive side of things. So, no, it's massive. And when you hear the roar after a goal goes in, it's big, especially in the second half against Memphis when we scored.
Yeah, it's always fun when you all are closer to CLC and those fans in the cheap seats getting rowdy for you all. And I just got to say, for any of our fans or listeners watching live on this podcast or on the stream, feel free to throw in your questions. If we have a time, we'll ask Owen. Owen, I have one more for you, and then I'm going to pass it around to my fellow co-host. If you were listening to what James was talking about, it sounds like Tampa Bay sort of plays to the level of their opponents. So they're doing really well against the teams that are the toughest teams in the league, like Louisville, New Mexico, Sacramento. And then against some of the lower end teams, they seem to be struggling. What are your hopes hearing that with the way Tampa Bay's been playing? Are you hoping that they're taking you guys for granted, that they can get an easy 3 points on you? Or are you hoping that they're going to treat you more like the top competition in the league?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about what they think about us. It's more kind of what we can do this week, like what we can do each day, how we can prepare to play against them. When we watch the clips from our staff that they've created, how our staff feels like we can impose our game against them and go away and get a result. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey, Owen, I want to talk with you a little bit about your 2 goals that you have scored so far as a member of Orange County Soccer Club. Now, last year you had an absolute banger from the wing. Saturday, you had it almost identical. Did you realize that these goals were almost identical to each other?
Yeah, I figured out the technique was a little bit similar. The angle was different, but the technique was very similar, yeah.
Angle was different, but technique was very, very similar. As a matter of fact, I think Andy put together a clip of the 2 of them. Andy, you got that clip? I mean, so my question in regards to this, Owen, what's going through your mind as that ball is coming to you? Ben headed it back in, and I think one of the Memphis players headed it back out. It's coming right to you. Are you thinking, hey, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to hit this shot like this, or is it just straight reaction?
Yeah, it's all instinct. Like when we go up for a set piece, I'm always on the edge of the box, so I'm thinking if the ball pops out to me, I'm going to try to have a shot. So it's on my mind before the set piece a lot of the time. But in this case, it's just like the ball comes out, and it was at a height where I couldn't hit it first time, so I'm not really thinking about these things. This is just me looking back on it, but it just kind of it comes to me naturally. It's just instinct.
Gotcha. And does being a professional athlete, I've spoken with lots of professional athletes in my life. They talk about things slowing down in the game. To me, being a guy on the sidelines who's an old fat guy, it all looks incredibly fast to me. I could never keep up. When something like that, when that ball's coming at you, are things slowing down for you, or is it's just boom, boom, let's go?
No, it feels slow. It definitely feels slow. Like you kind of, when you're focused in that that zone, you kind of just like it's hard to explain. It does slow down though.
Okay. I got one more question for you. Last year we had an amazing back line with you and Marcus, Dylan, and Ryan and Shuttler there in the back. And all 5 of you guys, 5, is that 5? 5. All 5 of you guys signed and returned back to the team. So, of course, all of us as fans are incredibly excited to think that, hey, these 5 guys who gave up almost no goals all season, we've got them back again, except that it hasn't quite worked out that way. So how have you had to learn to communicate with, basically a completely new back line, with the exception of Colin being behind you? I know Ryan's starting to come back from his injuries. How difficult has that transition been versus what maybe you were expecting for this season?
Yeah, it's different because over the course of a season, you form relationships with the players who are around you. And when that is changing so often as it has this season, it becomes difficult to kind of feel and communicate with the guys around you. But the principles always stay the same in our system, defending wise. So, yeah, that's what I can say about it.
Got it.
And before we move on to Dylan, I believe he has some questions for you. I just wanted to confirm for anyone that's watching, because you've had some bangers for Orange County now. You are a defender, right? You play a defensive role, correct?
I play a defensive role on this team, yes.
Okay, because I mean, you're putting in some bangers that some of the forwards, wingers, and strikers probably would be jealous of. I'm sure you got some jealousy from some of your teammates that are the goal scorers watching you make some of those or put some of those in the back of the net, right?
Yeah, they're happy for me, at least after the game.
Owen, you've been omnipresent this season, and unfortunately, a lot of your teammates have struggled with injury. So, what are you doing for recovery to stay healthy and to stay fresh between matches?
It's a lot of the work for me came in the off season. I was working in the gym a lot with one of my buddies from my hometown, and I feel like that helped me get through the first stage of the season, which was like preseason and when you start ramping up the intensity. And then once you hit a rhythm in games, it becomes easier to recover from each one just after maybe like the 5-6 game mark. So for me, it's just listening to my body. What do I need? A lot of the time it's just sleep. You need a lot of sleep, me specifically. Water, just trying to do the things and listening to my body, most importantly.
Got it. Matt, I'm going to hand it off to you here.
Yeah, I had a kind of similar to Larry's question. So last season, very settled back line. And I'll throw Kevin Partita into that as well, just because I think he was so key to how we built up. And we had a very, I would say, consistent style last year of kind of keeping it on the ground, passing it around the back, trying to build out from the back. This year it's been a little different. How have you kind of adjusted to that or kind of changed your game to kind of do things a bit differently, I suppose?
Yeah. There's been some games, like, for example, Indy, when we won away, where we kind of knew going in they're on a really good spell of games, and we have to just play an away game, which is staying really compact, keeping the distances between us really close, taking a little bit of extra time on throw-ins, set pieces, just slowing the game down, hitting the channels, which is difficult to defend when the ball is going over your head a lot. So these things are like things that ideally we wouldn't have to do, but that's just kind of the situation we've been put in a little bit this year. So,
okay, that's all I got.
Owen, we do have some fan questions, and thanks to everyone for asking in. So we're gonna hop right into those and then let you go. Matt Adams asks, "What's your dream winger partnership?"
Oh, I'm gonna have to say Marcus Rashford.
He's pretty good.
I might get some heat for that right now, but it's still my favorite.
Does it bother you at all that he plays on the other side of the field, technically?
He could play on the right.
Okay. All right. This leads me just preemptively to my next question. Dream club to play for?
You could probably assume after that is Manchester United.
I did did figure as much. We have another fan question from, I believe, one of your former college teammates. Who was your favorite college teammate, and why was it Irving?
Yeah, Irving. I'll go with Irving. He knows about the Nutwood days, and now he's met me here at OC, so it's been fun having him around.
Nice. While I wait to see if there's going to be any other fan questions, kind of rapid fire questions for you. What's your best soccer memory?
Ooh, that's tough.
If it's easier, if your earliest soccer memory would also
Earliest soccer memory. I remember my earliest soccer memory is playing AYSO with my dad as the coach. Yeah, scoring goals. Always just scoring goals.
Nothing's changed. I guess
your dad was
anymore.
Your dad was a coach. Was he a tough coach on you, or was he equal to everyone?
No, he was equal.
Equal.
Yeah.
Because sometimes dads expect more out of their kids that they're coaching, or
they
expect their kid to be like the coach on the field type thing. I sort of do that with my son. I don't put too much pressure on him, but that's something that happens a lot.
Hey, you guys want to talk about pressure from a dad? I was once late to baseball practice, and the coach made me run laps, and my dad was the coach, and he's the one who drove me to practice. So there's pressure.
That is pressure.
Owen, how hard is it playing at altitude in New Mexico and Colorado Springs while we're at it?
Colorado, I definitely noticed. New Mexico, I didn't really realize it was at altitude. At least nobody told me, so I wasn't thinking about it. But Colorado, it's significant. It's hard. You lose focus a little bit quicker, and the first 15 minutes of the game, you're gasping for air.
Got it.
It gets dry too, so it's difficult.
And I think my last one, we may have asked you last year, but who's the worst on the aux? Because the most common answer is Seth Kasipli, but there's been a few other names that have been thrown around.
And let me just say, I feel like Seth may have been talking to some of these players, because I feel like they've been a lot nicer to Seth this season than past season. So can you share with us, has Seth dropped hints to any of y'all to go easy on him on this question?
No, Seth can take it. He knows. But I'll probably say, Ryan has the capability to be pretty poor, but I also listen to a lot of music with Ryan, so I don't want to say Ryan, but I'll probably say Marcus. Marcus will throw out these songs.
To jump onto that, who has the most obscure taste in music when they plug into the aux? Is it Marcus?
Well, I would probably say someone who doesn't plug into aux, but
okay, who that doesn't plug into aux has the most obscure musical taste?
But then it's just a guess, because I don't really listen to their music. It's just them with headphones on all the time. So someone who plugs in, I would say probably Seth. His range is very wide.
There we go. I have a quick question really quick. I wanted to ask, last year, Correa Oceandina moves on. This year, obviously, Coach Morten Carlson moves on to Europe. Rumors were circulating that even Kyle Scott was being looked at by some teams in England. How much attention do you and the other players pay to the rumors that you hear? Because obviously in soccer, there's so many rumors, and so many of them are just like people trying to make stories happen. How often are you paying attention to what is potential, or what's potentially happening to your teammates, you other players that around the league, around the world?
I really don't pay much attention to it unless someone brings it to my attention. And it's usually not until something happens. So like with the Morten situation, people were telling me after we found out, they were telling me that they had seen rumors and stuff before, but I didn't really know any rumors. So usually just if someone brings it to my attention.
That's good to hear. I was always just curious of how much players pay attention to some of that stuff.
Yeah. I think it's different for everyone. Some people are more tapped into that kind of stuff than I am, but
awesome. Any other questions, Larry, Dylan?
Yeah, I have a quick one, and then I think Keith had one too that I'll throw out there. So just a quick thing so I know Brian's kind of played in front of you for, I would say, most of the last 2 years. Has there been any kind of adjustment or any kind of changed to your game that when it comes to Bryce being in front of you or other players? How's that kind of felt so far?
Yeah, it's a little bit different just because they have completely different types of players. Brian liked to come inside a little bit and look to switch the field on the other side with his left foot. Bryce is really good at spinning the back line and getting beyond them and using his pace and strength. So just kind of like I said before earlier in the podcast, you just start to form kind of relationships as games go on. And now I think I've played like 4 or 5 straight matches with Bryce starting. So
yeah, especially as a fullback, I'm sure there's a little bit of like a I know when to go and when not to go type of thing.
Yeah,
especially depending on who your winger is. Yeah,
and a lot of it is just communication too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, one from Keith. 2 seasons of OT and 2 manager changes halfway through the year. How does such a big change affect your play style or tactics and such?
We haven't really changed much. We haven't also had a lot of time to kind of learn about what Paul wants from us yet. And specifically my role hasn't changed much. So as long I just listen to the information that the staff gives me and try to execute on the field.
Cool.
Owen, we will let you go. We appreciate your extended time here on the Orange Black Soccer Cast tonight. Any final words for the fans?
Keep bringing that energy. Thank you guys
We'll
for
do
having
our best. Yeah, Owen, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone's favorite right back for Orange and Black Soccer, or the Orange County Soccer Club, Owen Lambe. Hell, he could
Thank you,
be
Owen.
favorite
Thanks,
right
Owen.
back of this podcast too, because we don't have one otherwise. Get my nasty face off the screen, please, producer Andy.
Big.
Oh, there we go. Hey, it's awesome speaking with Owen, a great player for this team, a great contributor to the success for Orange County. So we appreciate him taking some time to speak with us and some great questions, not only from you all, but from some of our people watching live. If you don't know, we live stream this show. That's sort of why when you listen to me in the intro, I'm starting to use the word show more, because really that's what we are. We're a show. And we then release a podcast episode of our show. So every Monday, 8:00, you can watch us live. You can participate with us. You can contribute chats, questions, ideas, thoughts. We will read them. If we like what you have to say, we will talk about it on here. In return, we ask that you listen to us anywhere that you can listen to us. Give us thumbs up, give us a like, share any of our social media posts, share our episodes with your friends, spread the word. We'd appreciate that. And make sure you give a like to this episode. Dylan?
We have one more thing to ask of people, and potentially if you did like Owen Lambe's goal and you thought I played really well, we're trying to do some player ratings, and these are all community based, so you can go ahead and submit your player ratings. I think you can find them on the website. You know what? Just reach out and ask if you really can't find them, and we will direct you to where they are. And for the next few weeks at least, we're going to try and get this going, and we'll give you until probably Tuesday. Just so if you've forgotten, you can get a nice reminder during the show. We'll tally up the scores, we'll average them out, and we'll push the graphics out there for you. And maybe we can squabble a little bit about them, because maybe you said Owen Lambe's not that good, and I will raise you that goal on Saturday night.
As promised, Dylan, I'm going to give you a little bit of a brief moment here just to talk about that win against Memphis, heading into Tampa Bay. Your thoughts about this Tampa Bay match coming up?
Oh, that felt like a million years ago. I think this is a good place, and I think I might just be parroting Matt Elder here, but this is a good place to say, hey, we probably didn't expect to get a result from that, but we did, and why not go and take that and try and make that 2 results on the bounce? And maybe this is where we jumpstart the season. It's the halfway point. It's a good place to kind of readjust and say, okay, maybe we're not playing for being the best in the West right now, but let's give this a good go and let's try and get a home playoff match and see what we can do when it all starts shaking down at the end of the year.
Perfect. I'm going to hand it off. Who wants to handle the updates on the prediction game that we have?
Well, you don't want me doing it because I'm in dead ass last place and I'm horrible at it this year. So
Dylan, take
I'm
it
not
over.
your guy.
All right, great. Thank you, producer Andy, for pulling it on up. Taylor, who you might know is the best lawyer on this show and occasional contributor, is just running away with it. It's not particularly a surprise. And then producer Andy in second place. DK rolling it up in third, I believe, and the rest of us are just kind of slumming it behind there. Beyond that, I'm really quickly trying to just figure it out. I think Taylor does. Taylor might have the highest score out of everybody at this point, which probably lends some credibility to our show. But big shout out to Kayvon on 37 points, right behind Andy. Look, if we look at the match day for New Mexico, kudos to the 30% of you that said Orange County win, but 70% of people said we're not getting a result from this match. But you can see the change as we looked at Memphis. And so I think maybe the players weren't looking past the New Mexico result, but certainly the fans were, and just saying, oh, let's see what happens with Memphis. And well, hey, almost half of us are right. So it's probably time that we predict for this weekend's match. Ray, who's winning?
Who is winning? That's a good question. Orange County is going to win this match. I missed last week by, I believe, just a goal, because I think I predicted in the official predictions 4-2 Orange County against Memphis. Hopefully it went through. I don't know if I submitted it right. But for this one, let's just go with the same score because it worked last week. 4-2 Orange County on the road in Tampa Bay.
Larry?
I honestly don't know what to predict anymore because I am literally wrong week in and week out. So having said that, let's just go ahead and pray to God that I'm wrong again. 2-1 Tampa Bay.
Okay, Matt.
Oh, man. Go with my heart or go with my head? I'm going to probably say 3-1 Tampa Bay.
Hey, I've tried
that hurts.
Matt,
that hurts.
Worked.
It's already one where we're looking past this. Who are we playing next? I'm going to go 2-1 Tampa in this one. And honestly, I hope I'm right because I just want to be slightly better than Ray.
There we go. Well, awesome. Let's move on. Let's wrap things up. We got to go to this favorite part of the show. What did we learn today? I'm going to go to you first, Larry. What did you learn in this episode?
Well, I learned that according to producer Andy, you are the comic relief of the show, Ray. And I've known you for 4 years. I've never once found you to be funny. So I learned that today.
What did you learned that you don't find me funny, or you learned that Andy thinks I'm the comic relief?
That Andy thinks you're the comic relief. I mean, occasionally you throw a good zinger out there, but outside of that, no, I've never found you to be the funny one. Dylan is obviously the funny one. I mean, just you can tell by the tone in his voice as he speaks.
Yeah, maybe funny looking.
Dylan, what did you learn in this episode?
I learned that while soft-spoken, I think Owen Lambe was ready to go for this one. Their chat was popping off. People for years back in his life, it seemed like, were just, hey, top scorer in high school. Hey, forward in college. Hey, favorite. Look at him. He is the quiet, consummate professional.
Awesome. Matt, what did you learn in this episode?
By the way, I feel like every single player that plays at a professional level was a forward in college or like high school or something.
That's exactly what happens.
No one plays defense in high school and then goes on to play professional sports. Like it's always like it's a striker that's too big, so they moved him to center back once he got to the pros. Like that's always the case. I swear, every single time. So here's what I'll say. I want to bring something up because I feel like we didn't talk about it enough, and I'll use it as my thing I learned. I learned that this podcast does not respect Bryce Jamison's game like we should, because he was barely mentioned in that review of the Memphis game, and wow, what a difference that guy made. I don't know if it's the tactical change that, not to toot my own horn, I've been saying for a while now, to move him up higher and just play him like as a forward/right wing that doesn't sit back and hold hands with Owen. Which we've seen in a couple games this year. Have him up top, have him running off the back of the defenders. If we're going to do this long ball over the top, then that's got to be Bryce Jamison standing right there next, holding hands with their left back or center back, and it worked wonders on Saturday. So long may that continue, please. Especially as the RBLR guy says that they're not so great against a quick counter. Sounds like Bryce Jameson's name's written all over that.
No, I appreciate that, man. I do believe we've shown love to Bryce throughout the
I
year.
know,
We
I'm
didn't do
kidding,
much
but
this
we just
episode.
didn't mention him enough in this Memphis
Yeah,
game. He scored 2 goals, or he scored a goal and drew the pen.
That's what happens when you have 2 matches to review, a match to preview, and we're going to have a player on. It's hard to get it all in. So we do our best. But no, the way to give a shout out to Bryce on that. Yeah, I'm looking forward if that is in fact the case, what the Tampa Bay gentleman James was talking about, the counter and the quick pace. Him and Dunbar can probably be dangerous against a Tampa Bay team if they can play their game and hopefully finish properly. I think Dunbar is due for something because I know he's been struggling a little bit with his finishing. So we'd like to that. What did I learn in this episode? I learned nothing. Dylan is shaking his head like I learned nothing.
Do you have the capability to learn?
I don't know. I really don't know. I did have something in mind, but I totally forgot it. So I'm just going to stop there. I learned that Larry thinks I'm not funny. That's what I learned, I guess.
But yet I just laughed at that.
Yeah, you did. So I guess I am funny. I want to thank everyone for participating in this, from my co-host Larry, Dylan, Matt, my producer Andy, for all of you all that were listening live, contributing in the comments, throwing in questions, thoughts, predictions, whatever you were throwing in there. Also, our guests for this episode, Owen Lambe from Orange County SC, James from RBLR. I'll get better at it, just rolling off my tongue, but right now I still have to think about it before I say it. Hey, that's how things go. And we had such a jam-packed show. We're still doing this within the hour limit, so that's a victory. I learned that we can do that when we're talking a lot. For everyone involved in the show, thank you for listening. Remember to give us a like, follow us on social media. This is the Orange and Black Soccer Cast, and we are out.